Now at 9, a shooting after Miami High School football game. Also, the American Heart Association continues to raise awareness. And we take a look at the annual Collectors Expo.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good evening. This is your KOAM News at 9. I'm Jalen Banks. We start with a shooting out in Tulsa involving the Miami High School football team. At the conclusion of the Miami War Dogs football game against McLean Magnet School in Tulsa, shots were fired. Officers found 2 17-year-old males at the scene were shot. One was pronounced dead at the scene, the other in critical condition. In a statement released by Miami School Superintendent Nick Highsmith, he says that the Miami School will not travel to Tulsa McLean again to participate in any school activities. Homicide detectives are actively working on the case. If you have any information, please call the Tulsa Police non-emergency number at 918-596-9222. The annual American Heart Association Heart Walk was held at the Leggett and Platt Center at Missouri Southern State University. Educational booths and survivors explain the impact of a community coming together to fight a cause. The money raised is used to help the American Heart Association fund critical research, healthy lifestyles, and CPR education.
I do. I think it makes people more aware of symptoms of heart disease and strokes and heart attacks, and makes them more aware of what's going on and help to prevent those things from happening.
KOAM's Jordan Aubrey was the MC at the event. The Neosho Art Council hosted a sidewalk chalk art contest to kick off Neosho's Fall Festival. A variety of artists, young and mature, created beautiful sidewalk masterpieces. The contest encouraged the community to interact with local artists in action.
One time I went on Pinterest after I heard about the chalk thing, and then I saw this jellyfish thing, so I tried doing it. It didn't look as good as my house, but and then I tried doing it again, and it looked more decent.
Neosho hosts its annual Fall Festival on the first Saturday in October. With communities across Southwest Florida left devastated by Hurricane Ian, mobile homes were some of the most vulnerable structures in the storm's path. Fox News correspondent Charles Watson paid a visit to one community in Venice, where many residents lost everything.
It's been good for me for 22 years, until Wednesday.
Joan Wyatt says she did everything she could to save her home from the wrath of Hurricane Ian.
All I kept doing was praying that it would stop, just the wind would stop, and it didn't. This is what came first. I was standing right here, and the roof came up, and the metal strips. If you see the metal strips on there, I stood on a stool, and I'm holding down these metal clamps, and it didn't work.
Her efforts were no match against the powerful winds and torrential rain that battered and soaked her 2-bedroom mobile home for hours on end.
I didn't think it was going to be this bad. It didn't even touch my car. The windows sufficed, but the roof is at somebody else's yard.
The senior community she lives in didn't fare any better. In this neighborhood, making it through the storm unscathed was the exception, not the rule.
It's so sad because all my friends, a lot of them, their houses are demolished.
Over half the park is gone, which is sad because it's been here a long time.
A lady was walking toward me and she was crying, and I said to her, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" And she cried even harder. I said, "Well, calm down, you take a deep breath." And she said, "That's my house. I'm homeless now." And it was just heart-wrenching.
This is my den. I loved this room.
For Wyatt, more than 2 decades of memories in her personal sanctuary are now gone. But she says she's thankful she's still alive to build new ones.
Hopefully I'll get another mobile home and to put it in the slot and go from there. What else can you do?
The property manager here tells me the next step is trying to get this community cleaned up as much as possible so folks can start filling out FEMA applications and hopefully get some financial help as they start to rebuild. In Venice, Florida, Charles Watson, Fox News.
Our thoughts are certainly with them. And now we move on to weather. Sam, what do you have for us?
Yeah, we've been watching Ian, or the remnants of Ian, making its way across the Carolinas yesterday and today. Ian is now, or what's left of Ian, is in Southern Virginia right now. And as we go through the forecast models, you can see that it's expected to take a path to the east, emerge off the Atlantic coast, and kind of just wander around a little bit before finally moving out into the Atlantic and away from the United States. So that's pretty good news. Here locally, we don't have any hurricanes to deal with. Instead, we're going to see some chilly nights ahead and a pleasant week in store for us as well. However, there are some rain chances next weekend, which is actually a good thing because of the drought that we've been suffering from. And of course, I'll have more details on that in our forecast coming up in just a few short minutes, so you'll want to stay tuned for that.
The annual Collectors Expo kicked off. The expo had cosplay contests, comic books, comic creators, and video game contests. The event is similar to that of San Diego's Comic-Con, and it also had some special guests.
Well, I like to get deals on stuff for my own collections, but of course, you know, seeing a lot of my other friends here around, so we can get together and have a good time at other places and see other people of the geek community in costumes and other things that they do is a lot of fun.
The event was held at Cecil Floyd Elementary in Joplin. Joplin's Porch Fest was put on by the North Heights neighborhood. Porch Fest is a celebration of Joplin's best music, food, and art. Musicians play on the front of porches 1 hour at a time. Food trucks and artists set up in the street.
I think that one of the greatest things about this is where you would normally go and pay about $30, $40 for these local musicians. They're willing to volunteer their afternoons to come and showcase our neighborhood and show us their music, where most people wouldn't be able to go out and, you know, on the weekends to go see them sometimes, and now they get to do that in their own neighborhood.
Porch Fest is run completely by local volunteers. Most are part of the North Heights Neighborhood Group, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the neighborhood. Every fall, Lamar, Missouri celebrates their very own legendary beginnings. The celebration remembers Wyatt Earp, who was the city's constable in 1869. Residents enjoyed the day with food, crafts, baby shows, and live music.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of Wyatt Earp Fall Fest is just to see everyone having so much fun right here locally. I think a lot of times, you know, people think if I want to have fun, I've got to leave Lamar, leave Barton County. But, you know, that's just not so. You can have fun right here in our community with our friends and our neighbors, and it's great to be a part of this.
Wyatt Earp left Lamar heading west, starting the journey of what would become one of America's frontier legends. As Florida and South Carolina began picking up the pieces from Ian, the governors of those states are working closely with President Biden and his administration on getting federal relief. No word yet on when the president plans to visit Florida. Fox News correspondent Rich Edson is at the White House with the latest.
The White House press secretary says President Biden spoke with his Homeland Security advisor today, focusing on power and water restoration in Florida and an updated damage assessment for South Carolina. President Biden has also declared disasters in Florida, South Carolina, and now North Carolina. That pushes federal resources to those states. The president says the government will stay at it for as long as it takes.
The situation in Florida is far more devastating. We're just beginning to see the scale of that destruction. It's likely to rank among the worst in the nation's history.
The president has also coordinated with one of his top critics, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. When asked, the president said their relationship was very fine and that DeSantis complimented him and thanked him for the immediate response. Other Republicans have praised the federal-state partnership in confronting this storm.
I want to thank Governor Henry McMaster and President Biden for working together when the governor issued his emergency declaration on Wednesday. This was a very unpredictable storm, but getting our emergency centers up and running, getting the president's approval on that, we now have access to resources for disaster relief and any search and recovery assistance that we need.
President Biden says he plans to travel to Florida when conditions allow, and that his intent is to also visit Puerto Rico, where Hurricane Fiona hit a couple of weeks ago. At the White House, Rich Edson, Fox News.
We now take time to honor tonight's Force 8 hero. Sergeant Jerry Engel, a Pittsburgh, Kansas native, served in Iraq. He served in the 891st Engineer Battalion. He also earned the Army Achievement Medal. To Sergeant Jerry Engel, we thank you, our 4th State hero. Coming up, how unhappiness can affect your aging. A new study says an unhappy state of mind might accelerate aging. A study from startup Deep Longevity Limited that examined people's aging clocks says being unhappy or lonely can speed up the aging process even more than smoking. Researchers say the psychological factors of unhappiness can add 20 months to one's biological age. The study adds unhappiness or loneliness increases risk of cardiovascular disease by roughly 1/3 and can accelerate the risk of Alzheimer's, diabetes, and other diseases. The Food and Drug Administration is proposing new restrictions for using the healthy claim on food packaging. According to the FDA, roughly 5% of packaged food products are labeled as healthy. The agency regulates the claim and first defined it in 1994. Now the FDA wants to update the definition to match current nutrition science. In order to have the claim healthy on their packaging, the FDA says products would need to contain a certain amount of food from at least one of the recommended food groups. They would also have to cut certain nutrients that are bad for you, such as sodium and added sugars. The food pressed from olives and has wonderful health benefits. Extra virgin olive oil is extracted from first pressing of olives and is the least processed in keeping its natural antioxidants and vitamins. When used in healthy diets, it can also help lower risk of heart disease. While extra virgin olive oil is now mostly used for cooking, it also has ties to lamp fuel and religious ceremonies in the Mediterranean. After the break, Sam Lane returns with a complete look at the forecast, and later how the Newark Airport compares to the nation's other mega airports.
What a beautiful start to the weekend with lots of sunshine, light winds, and warm temperatures, and even some cool mornings across our area, and it's still pretty nice out there right now in Seneca, Missouri at the Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, and pretty much nice everywhere. This afternoon, we made it up to 82 degrees here in Joplin, starting out at a cool 45. That was above the normals of 76 and 53, but of course the 45 was below normal. Look at that. We can get down to freezing this time of year, believe it or not, like we did back in 1985, and of course 94 degrees, the record back in 1953. Now, over the month of September, we were above normal on the temperatures, both for the highs and the lows, and as a result, it all averaged around 3 degrees above normal, which makes it the 13th hottest September in Joplin history. I don't like setting those kind of records personally. Radar right now is pretty clear, and it's going to stay that way. We are watching a storm system up across the northern Rockies, though. You can kind of see it spinning here over western Wyoming, producing some showers and storms in Colorado today, even some severe weather, believe it or not, in western Colorado and southeastern Utah. This is slowly going to move in our direction and introduce the chance of rain in our forecast, but it's going to be a while before it gets here. Highs this afternoon were very pleasant across the region as we warmed up into the 80s in most locations, including Joplin with 82, Columbus 82, same thing in Parsons, 85 up in Chanute, and Coffeyville was also 85 degrees, a little bit cooler over in Bentonville where they were 79. Right now in Joplin it's 64, it feels like 64, dew point's 38, as well as the humidity and the pressure is currently steady. And let's take a look at the lake levels because they are down there. We're about 1.5 feet below in Elk City and about 2 feet at Big Hill. Grand Lake is about 2 feet below normal as well, and Beaver Lake is 3 feet below normal. And you can kind of see where this is going. We're going to get even worse at Table Rock with almost 5 feet below normal, and Stockton, though, 6 feet below normal. So all the lakes are below normal. We desperately need that rainfall. All right, let's take a look at the temperatures for tonight. Generally in the 40s and 50s as we go through the morning, and by 9 o'clock in the morning we'll be generally in the mid-50s across the area. Then tomorrow afternoon we'll see temperatures in the upper 70s to right around 80 degrees across our area with easterly winds. And then as we go into Sunday night, Monday morning, we'll see lows once again in the 40s and 50s across our area. And then by Monday afternoon, a repeat of tomorrow with temperatures in the upper 70s to around 80 degrees, maybe even some mid-80s out towards the west. And then as we move into Tuesday morning, southeasterly winds continue So we'll see lows generally in the low 50s across our area, including Joplin with 53 and Neosho, same thing. All right, let's take a look at the next 7 days. 82 on Monday, 83 on Tuesday, I should say. And then a slight chance of a storm on Wednesday, but that will mainly be in the western sections. Then we start to get cooler, as well as rain chances increasing as we head towards next weekend, and it'll definitely feel more fall-like. Jalen?
Why, thank you, Sam. And up next, how the Marlboro maker is competing with Juul. Altria is putting some distance between itself and the vaping company Juul. The Marlboro maker says it will end its non-compete deal, opening the door for it to launch and invest in its own rival vaping products. Altria invested nearly $13 billion in the vaping upstart. Juul is facing a potential ban of its e-cigarettes in the U.S. A disgraceful distinction for a New Jersey airport. An annual survey by J.D. Power names New Jersey's Newark Liberty International as the worst mega airport in North America. Over 26,000 travelers gave their lowest scores to Newark, critiquing the airport for having filthy seating areas and limited retail and dining options, among other issues. Just behind Newark in the number 2 spot is Chicago's O'Hare Airport, which also holds the title as the world's 4th busiest airport. California's LAX, Boston Logan, and Toronto Pearson round out the top 5. The Fed's preferred inflation gauge ticked up again in August. The Personal Consumption Expenditures Index showed more prices climbed 0.6% from July. Core PCE doesn't include food and energy prices, which are two volatile categories that usually contribute healthy to headline inflation. Including food and energy prices rose 0.3% in August. Fall happens in September, and apparently stocks are taking their cue from the season as the markets take a nosedive. Fox Business Network's David Asman has all the details in tonight's Fox Means Business Report.
A bad day and month for the stock market. The pain was widespread again Friday on Wall Street. The Dow, S&P 500 and NASDAQ taking a big tumble on more worries about rising interest rates and a potential global recession. And forget a September to remember. Investors want to forget this one. The Dow and S&P 500 suffering their worst month since March 2020. In fact, the S&P 500 had its worst September since 2008. And the NASDAQ plunged 10.5%. The market's now at 52-week lows. And investors weren't the only ones worrying about inflation in September. Shoppers were stressing about it too. The University of Michigan says consumer sentiment dropped more than expected for the month. Gas prices continue to rise as we head into the weekend. AAA says the national average cost for regular is $3.80 a gallon. That's 11 cents higher than a week ago and 61 cents more than a year ago. That's business. I'm David Asman.
Coming up, the electric vehicle trend continues. BMW's new electric sedan is the German company's answer to Tesla and Porsche. Fox's Gary Gastelum gets behind the wheel with more about the high-performance car.
BMW is going electric in a couple of different ways. On the one hand, you've got vehicles like the iX that were purpose-built to be battery-powered. And on the other hand, vehicles like this, the i4, which shares its body with the internal combustion-engined 4 Series Gran Coupe, right down to its liftback design. The i4 starts at $57,000 for the rear-wheel drive eDrive 40 and $68,000 for this higher performance M50. The dual widescreen displays and faux grille being the biggest changes from the 4 Series. The M50 has a 536 horsepower all-wheel drive system, and while you can't see it under this fake engine cover, it will accelerate this vehicle to 60 miles an hour in 3.7 seconds, according to BMW. That means this is more affordable, more powerful, and quicker than the similarly sized iconic BMW M3. And that acceleration is accompanied by a soundtrack developed by film composer Hans Zimmer, who's a frequent collaborator with director Christopher Nolan. So you can be pretty sure that every drive will involve the warping of time and space. or at least Michael Caine showing up looking for a ride. Either way, pretty cool. Despite weighing significantly more than a typical compact car, this has the sharp handling you'd expect from a BMW 3 or 4 Series. In fact, it may even be better thanks to that weight, because most of it's in the floor, giving this a very low center of gravity and excellent balance. A full suite of electronic driver aids, including stop-and-go cruise control with lane centering steering, is available. The i4's battery can be recharged to 80% at a public DC fast charging station in about a half an hour, which is pretty quick, but that only gets you 270 miles of range, which is a lot less than 315 miles of range the Tesla Model 3 Performance this competes against is rated for. And if you order this with the performance package this one has, that comes with these 20-inch wheels, that drops to 227 miles. Still enough for a typical daily drive, assuming you fill it up at home every night. But on the road, you might find yourself looking for outlets to plug it into as often as cool roads to drive it on. In the 2022 BMW i4 M50, Gary Gastelou, Fox News.
Well, that's a look at the first 30 minutes of your KOAM News at 9. We'll be back with more news, weather, and sports after the break. The arrest of migrants seeking asylum at the border. Well, over 2 million in the fiscal year that ended yesterday. That shatters last year's record of 1.7 million. And hundreds of migrants keep showing up at our doorstep every day. Fox News correspondent Matt Finn is in Eagle Pass, Texas, with more.
It was another busy week here along the southern border. Our crews saw hundreds, if not 1,000 plus migrants cross into this country throughout the course of several days. And we also saw another water rescue where a group of men and women were carrying a young child. They had to be rescued by an airboat. That group telling me they're coming from Nicaragua, and as we see just about every day here on the border, they were put in a Border Patrol bus or van, taken to a processing center, possibly to then be released and heading on to their next destination in the United States. Also, an update on a horrific, deadly crash in Uvalde, Texas. DPS says this week a 17-year-old girl from Austin, Texas was smuggling 9 illegal migrants from Mexico in her pickup truck when Border Patrol pursued her. She ran a red light and crashed into a semi-tractor trailer, which then hit a third car. That young driver and a second person in her truck were killed. Many people were sent to the hospital. And we did a one-on-one interview with the Democratic Mayor Pro Tem of this town, Eagle Pass, Texas. Yolanda Ramon tells us she endorses Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott's busing program.
Well, you know what? We've been dealing with this for the last year and a half. You know what? Welcome to our world. I hope they enjoy having them over there. You know, you need to keep in mind that a lot of the states, you know, they claim themselves as we welcome immigrants way back there. Well, now they're here. So take them, you know, we're taking them to you. That's fair enough, I think.
And that Democratic Hispanic Mayor Pro Tem of Eagle Pass tells us that she does not think the migrants are being tricked onto buses. She says that they want to get to other parts of the country. They tell us they want to get to other states, so many of them might appreciate the bus ride to New York, Chicago, D.C., and beyond. In Eagle Pass, Texas, at the southern border, Matt Finn, Fox News.
Well, our thoughts are certainly with everyone involved. Hopefully we can find a solution. But now we move to weather. Sam, what do you have for us?
It's been a beautiful day across the 4 states with lots of sunshine and pleasant temperatures. You can see on radar right now, it is pretty much clear. And over the last 36 hours, we've been kind of on a roller coaster here. We started out real chilly, and then we get warm in the afternoon. Then we go right back down into the dip with temperatures in the 40s, and then right back into the warm air by afternoon. And that's because the air is so dry, and it allows it to expand and contract very easily, and so we're seeing these wide range of temperatures across our area. One thing that is staying in place, and that is the drought, and it's getting exceptional from southwestern Missouri, southeast Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma, surrounded by extreme dry conditions, and unfortunately that's going to be with us for just a little bit longer, but there is hope on the horizon. We're going to have some chilly nights ahead, a pleasant week as well, and then we have some rain chances as we move towards next weekend. I'll have details coming up.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is issuing a bold threat to the West as he annexes 4 occupied territories in Ukraine. President Biden then firing back with his own warning. Fox News correspondent Trey Yinks is in Kyiv, Ukraine with the latest.
Some big Ukrainian advances just one day after Russian President Putin annexed occupied Ukrainian territory. The authoritarian leader then held a choreographed event where state workers were given Russian flags to wave in Moscow's Red Square. We became stronger because we are together. The truth is with us. The truth is power, and therefore the victory. Putin says the victory will be ours. But the situation at the front belies Putin's propaganda. After several days of heavy fighting, Russian troops today withdrew from the eastern city of Liman. The blue and yellow Ukrainian flag flying once again over an area Putin claimed as Russian just yesterday. Ukrainian forces continue to push forward, bolstered by increasing supplies of Western weapons, destroying Putin's claims of success. In his nightly address, President Volodymyr Zelensky reiterating his vow to fight for every foot of land. The path of our enemy is also completely clear, Zelensky says: defeat, shame, and condemnation. There are serious concerns in the West that Russian President Putin faces such internal and external pressure that he could take a step up on the escalation ladder. In Kyiv, Trey Yingst, Fox News.
Coming up, how some American prisoners in foreign countries will be heading home. Venezuela frees 7 Americans in prison in the South American country. In exchange, the U.S. is releasing 2 nephews of Venezuelan First Lady Celia Flores. The 2 were convicted on drug smuggling charges in 2016. Fox News correspondent Kitty Logan is in London with more details.
Those freed are 5 oil executives employed by the Houston-based company Citgo and 2 other American citizens. They'd been held captive in Venezuela for more than 5 years. The executives were abducted in 2017 during a meeting in the Venezuelan capital Caracas. This was the biggest prisoner swap ever arranged by the Biden administration. President Biden responded to the release in a statement, saying, "Today, we celebrate that 7 families will be whole once more. To all the families who are still suffering and separated from their loved ones who are wrongfully detained, know that we remain dedicated to securing their release." This release is also seen as a gesture of goodwill by Venezuela's president as he tries to rebuild relations with the US. It's thought the deal was done with back-channel negotiations. Secretary Blinken paid tribute to those who secured the deal, saying, "After extraordinary efforts and perseverance across the State Department and wider US government for many months, those wrongfully detained Americans and legal permanent resident are free and will soon be reunited with their loved ones. I am grateful to Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs Roger Carstens and the rest of our State Department team for their tireless efforts to achieve this outcome." The US government is still trying to bring home around 60 other Americans held by foreign governments, including Brittany Griner and Paul Whelan, both detained in Russia. In London, Kitty Logan, Fox News.
Later, why the skies of New Mexico are full of balloons.
What a beautiful start to the weekend with lots of sunshine, light winds, and warm temperatures, and even some cool mornings across our area, and it's still pretty nice out there right now in Seneca, Missouri at the Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, and pretty much nice everywhere. This afternoon, we made it up to 82 degrees here in Joplin, starting out at a cool 45. That was above the normals of 76 and 53, but of course the 45 was below normal. Look at that. We can get down to freezing this time of year, believe it or not, like we did back in 1985, and of course 94 degrees, the record back in 1953. Now, over the month of September, we were above normal on the temperatures, both for the highs and the lows, and as a result, it all averaged out around 3 degrees above normal, which makes it the 13th hottest September in Joplin history. I don't like setting those kind of records personally. Radar right now is pretty clear, and it's going to stay that way. We are watching a storm system up across the northern Rockies, though. You can kind of see it spinning here over western Wyoming, producing some showers and storms in Colorado today, even some severe weather, believe it or not, in western Colorado and southeastern Utah. This is slowly going to move in our direction and introduce the chance of rain in our forecast, but it's going to be a while before it gets here. Highs this afternoon were very pleasant across the region as we warmed up into the 80s in most locations, including Joplin with 82, Columbus 82, same thing in Parsons, 85 up in Chanute, and Coffeyville was also 85 degrees, a little bit cooler over in Bentonville where they were 79. Right now in Joplin, it's 64. It feels like 64. Dew point's 38 as well as the humidity and the pressure is currently steady. And let's take a look at the lake levels because they are down there. We're about 1.5 feet below in Elk City and about 2 feet at Big Hill. Grand Lake is about 2 feet below normal as well, and Beaver Lake is 3 feet below normal. And you can kind of see where this is going. We're going to get even worse at Table Rock with almost 5 feet below normal, and Stockton, though, 6 feet below normal. So all the lakes are below normal. We desperately need that rainfall. All right, let's take a look at the temperatures for tonight. Generally in the 40s and 50s as we go through the morning, and by 9 o'clock in the morning we'll be generally in the mid-50s across the area. Then tomorrow afternoon we'll see temperatures in the upper 70s to right around 80 degrees across our area with easterly winds. And then as we go into Sunday night, Monday morning, we'll see lows once again in the 40s and 50s across our area. And then by Monday afternoon, a repeat of tomorrow with temperatures in the upper 70s to around 80 degrees, maybe even some mid-80s out towards the west. And then as we move into Tuesday morning, southeasterly winds continue, so we'll see lows generally in the low 50s across our area, including Joplin with 53 and Neosho, same thing. All right, let's take a look at the next 7 days. 82 on Monday, 83 on Tuesday, I should say, and then a slight chance of a storm on Wednesday, but that will mainly be in the western sections. Then we start to get cooler, as well as rain chances increasing as we head towards next weekend, and it'll definitely feel more fall-like. Jalen?
Coming up in sports, the Kansas Jayhawks put their undefeated record on the line today against Iowa State. Plus, Pitt State hosts Missouri Southern for this year's Miners Bowl. Danny Terzer has those highlights and more next.
This year's Miners Bowl features two of the hottest teams in the MIAA right now. Pittsburgh State hosts rival Missouri Southern for the 54th all-time meeting between the schools. Pitt State trying to stay perfect today and get its 8th straight win over Southern. First quarter, Chad Dodson Jr. finds Dallas Bond in the back of the end zone for the touchdown. Gorillas up 7-0. Pitt State great on defense in the first half. Forced fumble here. Michael Lacey recovers. Pitt State takes possession. Then look at this. Defensive lineman Zeke Wall barrels in for 6. Pitt State extends the lead to double digits. Chad Dodson Jr. gets 2 more touchdown passes in the first half. Jack Roberts here. Great blocks on the outside. Roberts gets in the end zone. Then Dodson airs it out to Christian Carter. He goes up and gets it. 31-yard connection, 28-3 at half. Pitt State rolls by Missouri Southern 38-9.
We knew they were a big physical team because last year they called us out for not being as physical as they were, but we definitely went out and showed that. So it was nice to just out-physical them all game, all 4 quarters.
We always got to leave the field thinking we're the most physical team. And tonight, this afternoon, we weren't the most physical team. The other message was, hey, we got more football in front of us than we do behind. We've only played 5 games, and we've got 6 opportunities in front of us. So we'll go back, we'll lick our wounds, we'll get healthy, and we'll get ready for Lincoln.
The Kansas Jayhawks are 4-0 for the first time since 2009. They're at home today hosting the 3-1 Iowa State Cyclones. Scoreless in the second, Daniel Highshaw takes the handoff, runs it in for the first touchdown of the game. Kansas leads 7-0. Later, Jalen Daniels keeps, punches it in from 2 yards out. 32 seconds left in the game now. Iowa State trails by 3. Jace Gilbert for the 37-yard field goal to tie it, and it's wide. Kansas fans storm the field. Jayhawks hang on to win 14-11. A few more scores around the Big 12. Top 25 matchup, Baylor hosts Oklahoma State. The Cowboys get to 4-0, winning 36-25. Kansas State ranked 25th following their big win over Oklahoma. Hosts Texas Tech today. Wildcats stay rolling, beating the Red Raiders 37-28. NEO is 2-2 through its first 4 games. They started strong, posting back-to-back shutout victories, but the Norsemen have cooled off, losing their last 2 games. NEO aims to bounce back at home today, hosting Tyler. Gavin Cole drops back, pressure comes and the ball is punched out. Trey Gibbs recovers it in the end zone, 2-0 Tyler. Third quarter now. Danica is done scrambling. Norsemen swarm, and he's down for a loss. In the fourth, NEO desperate to get some offense going, but Cold's pass is picked off. Tyler turns it into 3 points. NEO falls 5-0. Coffeyville on the road today at Ellsworth. The Coffeyville defense picks off Ellsworth's quarterback 5 times today. The Red Ravens beat the Panthers 31-7. Independence has a tough one today, facing 2-ranked Iowa Western. Pirates come up short 17-8 the final. That's a look at sports. We'll be right back.
It's an unbelievable sight in Albuquerque. We're going to check out the sky and how it's filled with hot air balloons. The annual Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta kicked off today. For the last 5 decades, the first week of October is the chance for kids and adults to enjoy the start of the fall. Hundreds of balloons take flight from the Balloon Fiesta Park. It's just $10 to attend, and the event runs through until October the 8th.
That's on my bucket list.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be on mine. Maybe I'm off on Monday for my birthday.
You should run out there.
I may, scurry on down there.
We're going to have a great forecast, not only here, but also in Albuquerque for that. We're looking at temperatures in the 80s right now. And then as we head towards the end of the week, we're going to see temperatures starting to fall off and become quite cool. And then Saturday, a high of only 67 with a 20% chance of showers. And then look at Sunday, a high of only 59 with scattered showers around. Now, not everybody's going to get rain, but at least it's something much different from what we've been dealing with over the last several weeks. So that will be a nice change to have some cooler and wetter weather around here.
Fingers have been crossed and prayers are finally being answered on that
Maybe
weather
so.
forecast.
Yes.
Super
we just
excited
need lots
for that.
more. We've got quite a deficit to make up for. So hopefully we'll get quite a bit of rain. But right now, we'll just take the chances.
Alrighty. All right, sounds good. Well, that's our time for now. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you right back here next time. Thanks for making us part of your night.